Before I introduce the speakers, though, and we get into the real juice of today's conversation, I just want us to get here, to arrive. We've all had plenty of meetings. Some of us may have rushed. I didn't. I actually was at the beach right before coming here, so haha. Anyways, my eyes are red because of that. Okay, don't. So, what I would like to do, and we've done this in all the previous expert panels, is just for us to quickly close our eyes and just take 5 slow, deep breaths. Okay? What I actually do before something like this, maybe a podcast, if I'm gonna be in a high intensity situation, I always do big inhale through the nose. At the top, another one, and then release through the mouth slowly. So we're gonna do 5 of these, okay, at your own pace. Close your eyes. Let's start. In again. Open your eyes. Maybe everyone was with their eyes open. I'm the only one here with eyes closed. Hopefully not. But let's get to the real juice. Let's start with the big speakers. Before I introduce them, let's start with a big round of applause for these incredible people here today. Alrighty, so we're gonna start with Chris Erthel. He is the co-founder of AdUniverse, which is a SaaS platform with 77 million ads with exact ad spend data. And Chris was the ex-CMO of Meller, the famous sunglasses that everyone is wearing, it feels like. He's also the host of the Happiness podcast, and he's been running Meta ads for 11 years with 60 million total ad spend overseen. To my right, I have Paola Sasplugas. Paola, with a background in creativity and design, started PDPAOLA in the final years of her studies, when what started as a hobby evolved into a profession. This transition from a personal pastime to a professional endeavor was catalyzed by her brother Humbert, whose vision for the project led them to establish the company together. As a founder, Paola prides herself on PDPAOLA's growth from a vision into a robust reality powered by a dedicated team of more than 200 individuals. In her role as a creative director, Paola is committed to pushing the boundaries of jewelry design while steering PDPAOLA towards becoming a truly global brand. I think she's pretty much almost there. Who here knows PDPAOLA? Alrighty. And yeah, Paola's vision for PDPAOLA is encapsulated in the concept of the flourishing chain, a metaphor for her leadership style in which leaders create leaders, and virtuous actions such as gratitude and generosity are celebrated. Alrighty, then we have Tommy Joyner, who has over 12 years of experience in building, scaling, selling, and consulting for high 6- and 7-figure productized digital service businesses. He has successfully exited 2 companies, including Content Pros and Word Agents, and led Word Agents to a near 8-figure offer. In addition to his entrepreneurial ventures, Tommy has ran a coaching group and consulted dozens of businesses in the productized and digital agency space. His expertise in transforming business ideas into profitable ventures has driven significant growth and operational efficiency for many. Having lived abroad for over a decade in Asia and Latin America, Tommy now calls Barcelona home. Let's go. Then we have Chris Reynolds, who actually led a very similar panel 2 years ago in a conference. This was right after I had just started Charisma. I had my first personal bankruptcy because I took on too much leverage. It was a shit show. And I was like, should I even go to Bansko? And he's like, yeah, for sure do it. You should come. And now, thanks to that panel 2 years ago, I'm a millionaire. So big props to. Nah, I'm joking. I wish. Um, so Chris Reynolds has been an entrepreneur for over 14 years, running online businesses and services that support entrepreneurs in their growth to scale their companies. He co-founded M3 Founders Club, which is a peer network of top-tier business owners. Over the previous 8 years, he has created 10 international business accelerators, and he's also the founder and host of the Business Method podcast. The podcast began back in 2015 and currently has over 600 episodes where they're currently interviewing billionaires and founders of billion-dollar companies. Chris is currently based in Barcelona, let's go, but has been a location-independent entrepreneur for over 11 years, living in multiple countries and traveling the world during that time. And last but not least, Nick. Nick co-founded RMS Retail Marketing Services, which grew into a multi-million-dollar business, performing services for some of the world's most respected retail chains, both nationally and internationally. He was instrumental in building a client portfolio which contained an outstanding cross-section of the retail trade. After Nick successfully sold his share of his original company, he spent some time crossing adventures off his bucket list, moving to live abroad, study Spanish, etc., before taking his now independent services back to the market. He asked me right before the talk, is this going to be in Spanish, please? Hola, please. No. In late 2021, Nick mapped out the trip to create retail content under the banner of the Retail Nomad the following year. In January 2022, Nick started out on a 22-country voyage over the next 12 months and as of June 2024, well over 120 videos have been produced, as well as winning the Top Retail Influencer Award. In January of this year, receiving the award as one of the top retail experts in the world. All right. All right. You guys ready? Everyone can hear us in the back? Everything fine? Cool. All right, then let's get started with the first category, idea validation and development. Chris Reynolds, how do you even find a 7-figure business idea? Where do you even start, right? Like, how do you know that that idea is really something that could lead to a 7-figure plus business?
Why, thank you, Mark. Yeah, that's a great question, and it's I'll give you guys an answer that I wish I knew many years ago when I started off as an entrepreneur. Is that you probably all know the concept? Well, maybe you don't, of red ocean versus blue ocean. Red ocean is a market where is absolutely saturated with too much businesses that are similar. And then a blue ocean is an open ocean where there's nobody else competing in that market. So before anybody starts a business or starts a new business or creates a new product or service, I firmly believe this is so important to analyze the markets that you are looking at. Now, what most entrepreneurs do, and this is okay because I did it many times too, is that you have a passion and you have an idea, and so you're like, oh, I really love this, so I'm gonna go start this business because I enjoy this, and I think other people can validate it as well. But if you start a business that's in a red ocean and there's not a starving market out there, you're as opposed to Tommy and I were talking about this the other day, it can very much feel like you're building a business like pushing a boulder up a hill versus building a business with the sails behind your boat, right? And that is a really good feeling if you get a business in a blue ocean where it feels like the wind is just like taking you everywhere you need to go. Recently, we did an event down in the south of Portugal with a guy named Richard Koch, who's the author of the 80-20 principle. And he's very passionate about this. He will not invest in any businesses that do not have a starving market or a starving crowd that are just waiting for them. So I know a lot of you guys have businesses already. It's worth taking the time, and sorry if I'm going too long, Mark, but there's two really good books to put on your list. One, you've probably heard of this book, $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. It talks about how to find that starving crowd. Now, and then the second book is called The Star Principle by Richard Koch. It also talks about having to find that starving crowd and create what he calls a star business. So look at the markets before you start, before you create new products, before you create new services. And if you already have businesses, analyze those books and see how you can shift your own business to create what do they call them, home run offers, or as Alex Hormozi calls them, home run offers. Yeah, so you make offers that people feel so stupid to say no to, sort of thing. So is that a good answer?
First of all, great answer. This is also a dialogue, right? I may ask a specific question to someone very specific, right? But if you really feel like I need to share a different perspective, just let me know and we'll keep the conversation. And I may cut you off if it really starts getting too long, just being mindful of time here, okay? And I love the idea of the red ocean, right, as something to be avoided. Chris, number 2, what do people also get wrong, right, beyond the red ocean? What are some misconceptions about developing a business idea?
All right. Who of you here currently has a business but hasn't tested if there's a market fit? Okay, because that's something that, so I love giving advice, because sometimes I get feedback back which is like making me very happy. So I gave at ESADE, the business school, I gave the same tip that I'm going to give you now. And 1 year ago, this student from ESADE, who's now like a grown-up, came to me. He was like, I have an 8 million euro business thanks to your ideas that you shared in ESADE. And I was like, good, I'll happily share a bit more. I hope someone else tells me that soon. But basically it's like, so for example, this is my 12th company, right? So every time I launch something, in the first 5, I did it wrong. But now, like, so I love running Facebook, Instagram ads. That's all I do since 11 years, right? So when I launch a new company, I would, let's say, there's a company actually I wanted to launch, never did it. It was a belt, selling belts. Let's say some of you want to start a belt company. Now we could just, go to China, produce these belts, order them. You have like 8,000 belts in your warehouse, and now we see if there's a market fit, and you can sell with Instagram, Facebook ads. Or we could just get one perfect example, make a studio, make perfect ads for it, don't have any warehouse, nothing, and just have a Shopify page and just test it out if there's a market. And then, for example, you put the product there, and you constantly, it says sold out, but people can click on a wait list. And when a lot of people click that, you mean that there's a market. The market wants your product. But you first test it out before you invest. Let's say, for example, in Mella, we had to first invest 40,000 euros for our first sunglass shipment. So I would rather first test out if there's a real market before putting this money down. That's an advice I wish someone would have shared with me earlier.
Yeah, I would like to add, Chris, to what you said. In my experience, I feel red can become blue sometimes, because ideas can change and you need to also give the opportunity. In my opinion, when I started, it wasn't a good idea. I mean, I didn't have a vision. I even didn't have clear what my target audience was. And the real exercise was really understanding what was this target audience and modify the product until it became it and the ocean became blue. So sometimes it's also understanding you are not the best doing things, leading on your team to do that changes on the details, and plus on my side that I'm focused on fashion and retail, and details are all that matter. It's not about inventing the time machine, but moreover about really getting into the heart of the people. And so, yeah.
And actually connecting that with one of the next questions, I'm assuming you launched the business, you're like, okay, what the hell am I even doing? Let's just go with it. Did you pivot during this journey?
Okay.
Pivotar?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, when did you know, okay, this is it, this is what I'm going to focus on, right? Until when should you pivot? Did you have any of these experiences, and what did you learn from them?
In my experience, so the business is bootstrap and the beginnings are very humble. So the cross line was also the availability of cash. And so it was a bit the pressure that led us to pivot, as you were saying. And I think the game changer or the change of our mentality was when we understood about what do we needed for our product to work, and it was more about getting into the culture of people. That is the case of my product, the product I'm selling. And in the beginning, we used to, no offense, we used to bet a lot on short-term results, just because of that origin, humble origin, and the not the capacity to be patient. I'm explaining myself very bad, I think. But the point is, when we understood we needed to have some patience, it paid off after all. And so, in my case, the brand build was the key to change instead of just performance.
And did you actually pivot during this process? When did you know it was the right time to pivot? And when did you know, okay, now this is something that's really working? Maybe it's an obvious answer and it's like, okay, money is just coming in like crazy and it's like, but what was your experience?
Look, when COVID happened, our online was going crazy good, and we are a digital native brand. We felt like that was our world, and when COVID ended, everything went away. It was just, I don't know how you call it in English, but it was just like fake sugar, you know? It wasn't just rapid, quick win, but not really long-term vision, it's what fulfills my brother and I. Some people just create something to sell into a year, and that's okay, but it's not what fulfill us. And so it was, I would say, after COVID, and that's when we decided to open our first store, and to just pivot into another point of sale, understanding we were not commodity, we were a brand.
I love that. And we'll go into brand building, the marketing aspect also in just a few minutes. But let's say you pivot, right? Maybe you're getting this feeling like, okay, there's wind pushing in the sales. But I'm curious, Tommy, when do you use any methods to identify and validate a specific business idea, right? How do you also know, okay, this is actually something worth pursuing, to make sure that you're actually not just climbing the wrong mountain?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when it comes to validating a business idea, I think there's three important things to keep in mind. And it really depends on what your goals are, because you can make money with a lot of different things. Some things are just better at making money than other things. So you have to take into account marketability, scalability, and then passion, which really refers to like your ability to stick with an idea long enough to turn it successful. And when it comes to marketability, one thing that Chris said that's really common in e-commerce or testing different service business ideas is just to get a landing page up and see if you can get any traction with people being interested in like a pre-offer or a discounted offer. And you can kind of tell that without people even making purchases. So there's different ways to do that online. In the service space, there's also ways to do that on like freelance platforms. If you're a freelance consultant, or if you're thinking about putting together an agency and you have different skill sets or different services that you offer within an agency, you can offer those services and see which of them kind of like hits better than the other. But so with regard to marketability, you just have to find an idea that actually is out there that's reasonable. I think like too many people try and reinvent the wheel or invent things from scratch, which is where a lot of people go wrong in multiple types of spaces, but particular, I guess, in like the e-com space. Sort of what Paola was saying as well. Like you can kind of start with anything and then you can iterate. But it really does help if you start with something where there's a big enough market to begin with. Scalability, this really applies more to services in terms of the initial evaluation than it does to like products. Because of course there's different variables associated with putting together complex products, etc. But with services, it's really important because scaling services is super difficult. So that's something that's really important to take into account. And then passion is when you're validating this idea, like there's a ton of different things that you can do just to make like some quick money. But when taking into account that list of ideas that you've gone through that first kind of checklist with regards to marketability and scalability, like, okay, is this something that I could work on for like 5 or 10 years even, so I can get the compound interest associated with putting in the work over time? I stole some of these principles as well from Richard Koch, because I was at that event with Chris as well. But it really kind of fits into the standard way that I've validated business ideas in the past in terms of understanding like whether or not I was going to stick with something.
The answers so far are just crazy. Before we move on to the next category, I want to know, Nick, right? Maybe from your own personal experience or just from seeing so many different retail companies, what is one of the biggest challenges that companies or founders face in the idea validation phase?
I would say that it's the ability to say no and control your growth. Don't accept every opportunity. I started, before the turn of the century in brick and mortar retail. It was the largest explosion of retail growth in the U.S. Market history, and you get a tiger by the tail. So that growth could run you out of business almost as quick as we see the profits. So hey, let's go do that. But the ability of learning to say no and stay focused, like exactly what you were saying, Paola, controlling that and having the confidence and the strength to stay focused on your baseline and not turn down the business, but select the business that is a best fit for your core audience and business model, kind of like the 80-20 rule. The majority of business that comes to you in a lot of cases isn't designed perfectly for what your business model may be. So having that strength to say no.
Actually, I just read the book Good to Great. Are you familiar with it? Amazing book. Must read, to be honest. And he talks, the author, Donald Miller or something like that, about the hedgehog concept, right? And they basically studied thousands of companies and compared companies that were in a similar position, right? And then, one of those completely took off and the other one just didn't. And they tried to understand, okay, what were the actual things behind that? And one of the most important things from that book was actually the hedgehog concept, which refers to this fable, right? There's this fox always coming up with new strategies to attack the hedgehog, and the hedgehog is always just like sticking to its own, like the strategy that it knows how to do best. And the author talks about the intersection of these 3 circles, which was also similar to what you guys talked about. What can you be the best in the world at and not the best? What are you deeply passionate about? And what's your economic engine, right? Like understanding, okay, I'm gonna go after this metric, which he recommended always profit per something, and always having this sort of one metric to go after. So maybe touching on the topic of, metrics or just being a little bit more practical, right? Chris, I'm curious, what are some key components of a successful launch strategy? Are we talking about timing, right? Is it focusing on one specific topic and only sticking to it and saying no to all the other things? Is there some secrets when it comes to pricing, right? And by the way, we're in the second stage now, launch strategies.
All right, thank you for that question. So obviously it depends a lot what you launch for, no? But in general, there are some things that are true in any kind of launch that you want to have. So again, I'm gonna come from the Facebook, Instagram ads point of view, how we would launch there. So in any project ever, especially for example in Meller, we had like over 3,000 of A/B tests, right? So A/B test means we're now showing this product in a video ad of 10 seconds and then this product in an image ad. Again, and now it's not clear that this one works better because it depends, right? Can be that for Mark you react more to videos, so the algorithm knows that you should show you more video ads. So the right approach, what Facebook is always teaching us, is pitch, play, plunge, to give all of these out to the algorithm and then let the algorithm decide which human interacts more with an image ad, which human interacts more with a long video, with a short video. In general, what I would again test is really the more you test, the better your business will be. For example, in Germany, we found out that with higher prices, we're actually selling more because people take it as more perceived value and quality of a product. So we actually increased the sales by having higher prices. And this is something that didn't come intuitive for us, right? It came out as a test result. Or with one company that I helped in Germany also, so I'm German, so I have a lot of German companies, Hello Buddy. With them, it was actually, we like to do discounts in the ads, and in the launch also we made like a new big product line. Like, for example, the influencer Sarah Harrison made a big product line of all the skin care products and shampoos, which are all with ingredients that she chose. And then what we decided to do is, well, okay, now we make a big launch where she's promoting it with her 6 million followers, and we're also pushing it, but we're actually having a sale right away because we wanted to. So the company was at 20 million, and we wanted to go quickly to 100 million, which we managed, and we sold it then. But the important thing here is when we tested a 30% discount and a 40% discount. And the two founders were fully against me doing the 40% discount because they're like, no, it's not good for a brand. But then after seeing the numbers that they actually make so much more profit on a higher discount, they were like, okay, whatever we said, Chris, you were right. We always do 40% now because it just showed that the middleman, which is Mark Zuckerberg, right? So now it's like the product and the client. But in between, Facebook earns all this big chunk of money. And if it's a 30% discount, people still think, do I buy it or do I not buy it, right? And then the middleman, Facebook, earns a lot because it needs like 5-6 impressions. But on a higher discount, there was only one impression. So actually, the winner was Hello Buddy, the winner was the client, and the loser was Zuckerberg, and he already has enough votes. So we were happy with that outcome.
Amazing. And you mentioned ads, right, as a way to potentially test different products before a launch. Tommy, I'm curious, you have started 3 companies. You have also helped other people launch their own companies and scale them. From your experience, what's the most innovative launch strategy that you've employed, that's worked for you, that's really done wonders? Maybe you have a secret sauce that you could share with us?
Yeah. Well, I come from the productized service space, so it really depends on who I'm working with and like what resources are available to them. For some people, it's been really effective to run a paid marketing strategy because there's already a pretty hungry audience out there to tap into, and they already have an offer that converts. And for others, it's been like strategic partnerships, reaching out to other folks and getting on email lists, coming up with a special offer, getting that deal pitched, and then getting their business off the ground. So there's a really diverse set of launch strategies in the space that I come from. So yeah, so it kind of depends, to be honest. So yeah, I think that's all I have on that one.
Amazing. Thank you, Tommy. And maybe also bringing it to you, Paola, right? At the end of the day, you have a jewelry brand. I don't know if it's every year, every quarter, every month, you're probably dropping new designs, right? You're probably gonna test very quickly to see if this one works, this one doesn't work. What's been one of your biggest lessons you've learned from launching products, new campaigns, etc.?
I would say 2. With my brother, we like to call it like the cheeseburger concept, which is a clear message that you can understand in 1 second. I'm focusing more on the message rather than maybe the spaces where to promote the product, because sometimes it's not, for me, it's not only about only where we display it, but to really do it with the right, or creativity or message, it really depends. But yeah, cheeseburger meaning, okay, you understand what it's about. Like when you go to the McDonald's and you buy a Big Mac, you understand perfectly. So sometimes I relate it very much to what you were saying, to be true to who you are. And when you are launching something, really focus on okay, what's the most added value on here, and only potentiate that on the message. Not trying to say, oh, it's very good quality, but at the same time, you're gonna have it so quickly. And on the other hand, it's super nice. Just say one thing and say it very well. And the second lesson I would say, this is a mistake I did for 4 or 5 years. It's do not be vanilla, because you're gonna be irrelevant. I mean, there's so many competitors, so you need to really catch the attention by being super original. And that's about understanding customer psychology and trying to get into the heart and not to the pocket.
Love it. And around the topic of clear message, I can 100% vouch for that. With the help of my team, we put a lot of emphasis on clarifying our message after reading the book, Building a Story Brand. This is a marketing must-read for me personally, absolutely incredible. And we did experience an increase in demand. It was clear, it was working. But what if you don't have the money for ads, right? What if you barely have any resources and you're just trying to launch in some way, shape, or form? Obviously, I'm assuming here there's many different ways to go about it. Nick and Chris, here we can switch it up, but how do you launch when you really lack resources? Do you have any strategies? Do you have any ideas? What has worked? For many of the, for example, of the founders, entrepreneurs that you've interviewed, maybe we start with Nick and then Chris.
Sure, great question. I am a huge advocate of LinkedIn. I left the United States in 2005 and moved to Costa Rica. I had a great buddy that told me when I left the States, Nick, have you heard of this thing called LinkedIn? I'm like, no, not really. I've thankfully created a profile. This was after I sold out my first agency, first company. And since that point in time, I've accidentally probably sold over $50 million one way or another via LinkedIn. It's my largest tool that I think a lot of people don't truly drill down and take advantage of to a full extent. It's free. I used it for free for about 10 years. Now I pay for the professional, but it's $90 a month or something. But it's access to virtually every vertical of business in the world. It's just, if you utilize it and drill down, it's an unbelievable tool to utilize. Use LinkedIn. You can find me on there.
What's your handle? Yeah, I think one of the things that come top of mind to me is I love influencer marketing. So partnering with a big name or somebody that has a large network or multiple people. And one of my favorite strategies is, if you partner with somebody, you've got to give them a reason, and especially if you're starting new and you don't have much money, you've got to give them a really good reason to partner up with you. And if they have a large network, it makes sense to give them, say you partner up with somebody and they get the average people get 30%, 35%, 50%, something like that for a collaboration. Give them something like 75% of profits for life for those customers. And that makes the big influencers, it gives them even more reason to want to work with you, because this is unheard of to give 75% of the profits for this customer for life, right? And if you're new and you're starting out, that's just revenue that's coming in, and this person has a lot of influence and a lot of followers, and they're going to send them your way because you're offering them a commission or an affiliate that nobody else will ever do.
I'll just add one thing actually, because there's a lot of free tools out there that are available to people to reach out for direct outreach, and people will be receptive, but they're only ever going to be receptive if you have a good offer. If you have a compelling reason to talk to them and an offer that's clearly defined and easy to understand, that's also obviously beneficial to their audience or to them personally if you're trying to get them to buy something from you. A lot of people skip over that because a lot of people can build up the courage to start kind of networking and just say, fuck it, I'm going to go out there and just try to talk to as many people as possible. But what I find is a lot of people are spinning their wheels because they don't even know what they're selling yet, or they haven't even taken the time to put together some basic collateral to demonstrate that, which is sort of underemphasized. It's you can get a sale or get dollars in the door with very little, but you need something.
Amazing. And again, if you guys want to pitch in or anything, please let me know. And I fully agree actually with collaborations, the strategic alliances. When Charisma launched back in 2022, we were doing retreats. And I hosted the first one, and I met Chris in the third one because I actually did a collaboration with this other retreat company who was way more experienced. They were able to bring in incredible people like Chris, for example, which I would have only dreamt of at that time. So yes, there's always some sort of value to give, and I definitely can vouch for the strategic alliances. Now going deeper into marketing and customer acquisition. There's so many marketing channels out there. You can do content, social media. Even within social media, you have so many different platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. You can do SEO, newsletter, all these different things. Tommy, I'm curious to know, how do you decide which one is best for you?
Yeah, I think this also comes down to evaluating like what you're good at and what you like from the very, very beginning, because there are a lot of different marketing channels, and content marketing takes a lot of effort and like a big commitment and a lot of creativity. So if that's something that's like in your wheelhouse, then social media can be a thing. It also depends on the type of business that you're doing. And then there's lots of other paid media strategies that you can run as well. As I said, and as you guys just discussed, there's strategic partnerships that you can do to kind of network with people to get in front of other audiences. But for me, the most success I've ever had has just been fundamentally using whatever to get people on an email list, and then just like nurturing that email list over time, and then selling through different promotions and materials like that. So no matter what you do, like get emails, and if you have direct contact to be able to talk to people multiple times, that's how you're ultimately going to have like compound growth over a bigger period, because it takes a long time to convert someone into a customer. So if you don't have their contacts in a way where you can consistently reach out, it's going to be tough.
Couldn't agree more. And actually, I feel like because what we see most of the time is Instagram and stuff like that, we think that that is the way to go. And then there's always like these other platforms or channels that we don't leverage as much. And I definitely agree that newsletter should be definitely 100% something. If you don't have a newsletter platform, I have done my fair share of research. Some of my friends know how nerdy I can get with tools. My 3 recommendations are a MailerLite. That's the one we use. It's great. Super fairly priced, super great. ConvertKit, I also really like. It's super robust. You can personalize a lot better. You can create many more automations. And then you have Flowdesk, which is amazing as well, FLO Desk. If you really care about design, making sure it looks really nice. It's a little pricier at first. It may seem, but then the pricing is pretty stable. But yeah, really nice one. So within marketing, I would like to divide it just for a second into organic and paid. And I'm gonna ask first Paola regarding organic, because right now you guys, I mean, I've just only checked Instagram, but 1.5 million followers. Jesus Christ. So how did you get there? How relevant has content marketing been for you to really build that brand, to build brand awareness, and why should people double down on organic?
Very good question. This I've learned recently, but I think all services, brands, even you sell a product or whatever, when you are targeting any audience, at the end you are doing entertainment. People need entertainment to live. I mean, everything is entertainment in life. And so I think one of the keys to get that platform was about focusing more on giving entertainment rather than just be selling the product all the time and insisting. Sometimes it can get annoying for me to the customer. That on one side. On the other side, I would say, human PR. I mean, in my opinion, we don't need to undervaluate the word of mouth. It looks just so that you cannot get to the masses, but it's not true. I think it's about being in the right places, knowing the right people. Just, I used to be super closed in my room, just designing things and being with my computer. I'm super freak in that sense. And it's very difficult for me to open to people, but once I did the effort, money is outside the office. So that really worked for me.
And any specific tricks around how to build a brand? Maybe let's keep this one concise, and then we can go into Chris with paid.
I think it's all about narrative, about having something to add aside from the product. In our case, it's more about connecting with this intuitive woman of today and have some added value to give her aside from just buying the product. And once you are in the community, I think what you said about newsletter, it's our main channel, not for acquisition, but for fidelization. It's actually what is giving us the money, just the repeating customer. And yeah.
Amazing. I just looked at Nati.
I was like, what did I say wrong?
She's in charge of newsletters, the ones you receive every Sunday and everything. And she's always like, Mark, more. Anyways, so Chris, can you explain, or more on the paid side, right? Like, why is this the main channel, right? And a more specific question also, what creatives perform best on meta ads or other sorts of ads? And how can you find them?
All right. What was the first question? Because it was two questions, right?
Just why paid?
Yeah.
Or maybe both,
Okay.
right? And then what creatives perform best and how to best go about that.
Okay. Perfect. So, okay, this is the argument paid versus organic, which I think was a very good point for organic as well. I'm gonna make the argument for paid. So for paid, the one thing that's very beautiful is it can scale very easy. So for me, when I'm running ads, let's say I'm helping Mind Valley for this example. They do personal growth courses, video courses. So it's the same work for me. If I spend 100 euros per day, I have to upload the whole ads, I have to give all the effort, I have to create these videos. It costs me the same work if I put 100 or if I put 100,000 every day. Like it for my work, it doesn't make a difference. You don't have to hire any more person for the team. So it's still me looking at the data and changing the numbers. So that's why it's a channel to grow very, very fast without having to hire a big team. And for me, it was always something that was more stressing me out with running too big of a team, and that's how I also got my burnout, which maybe we'll go later more into. But yeah, so that's the argument for paid. It's just you can do a lot with a lot of reach without having to have a huge team behind it. Now, some of the best ads. So for me, I always let's go into the Mind Valley example, right? Now you're all in this room, and what's very difficult when you're in a room with many people, it just happened to me with other speakers, you have to remember all the names, right? So who of you has struggled sometimes remembering a lot of names in a big event? All right, okay, so here's one ad that I've created for that. So Mind Valley, there's this guy called Jim Quick, and he's an expert in letting people remember certain things. So they gave me the task of Chris, can you help us make a very cool ad out of this? And one thing that makes an ad very good, so please for all your companies, remember this. A good ad, also for PDPAOLA as well, a good ad normally has a bold statement or a question. So what's a cool bold statement for remembering people's names? And this is the best ad we have ever made, honestly. The ad says, there's no such thing as a good or a bad memory. There's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained or an untrained memory. Okay, bold statement. And then they wanted to quickly come to a point and sell. But just like you said from PDPAOLA, let's do the ethical thing. So I told them, look, it's cool, but there will be people who won't be able to pay this course, right? So like the courses cost, I don't know, but it was like 99 euros or so. So not everyone can afford it. And I don't think it's fair that these people cannot learn this. So what we actually decided to do is upload an ad of half an hour where he already explains the first two chapters in the ad, like an ethical ad that everyone can learn. And this ad got shared so many times and got so much reach, but it tended to be the best ad we've ever made. So like, do the ethical thing, like give the knowledge already, because when people know that, okay, there's someone who really knows what they're talking about, they will love it, and then some people will, it was even a lot of comments that they tagged friends of like, hey, I think this is a good product for you and so on. But in general, like give a lot of value. Or there's an ad I saw for a breathwork course, and you can all try this, right? So when you go like this, and you actually, when you hold your finger here and you breathe now, and check if the air goes out through your left or your right nostril at the moment. Okay? Everyone who has currently through the left, that means that you're in a relaxed state, right? Rest and digest. If it currently goes out through the right, you're in fight or flight. You're more like stressed from the day. Actually, I want to know, like, who is left right now? Who is right now? Okay, good. So that again shows that Barcelona is the best place, and I wish we should have do this also in New York or London. I'm sure way more people would be stressed. So Barcelona is a good, relaxed city. I like that.
Love it. So it feels like marketing is just always this thing that's constantly evolving. There's always new, real trends that you have to hop on, to make sure that you really go as viral as possible. There's so many trends out there. There's constantly new innovations. And I'm curious, Chris, what are some of these trends that you are currently leveraging? What are some trends that are just around the corner that we should not sleep on? And maybe we can even talk a little bit on AI, and if anybody would like to pitch in there, let's do it.
I was going to say AI is the new trend. Yeah, but I'm not a specialist in AI. Do you guys in AI marketing? Does anybody up here know a lot about Chris? You, Chris. The other Chris. Let's give the microphone to him, I think, in regards to AI.
Anybody here want to share anything?
I think you just got the wrong Chris.
All right. Yeah. So AI, for example, in this new company, one thing we're doing is that we're analyzing the ads of all the brands which spend the most money, and then the AI learns from the best ad and recreates these, right? So that's something that is coming in AI and is already happening. For me, the one thing I'm worried about, like to also have like a serious note here, is if the whole loop continues too much, right? That Instagram is already addictive enough as it is, and the ads will get so much better. You have no idea. And one way, OpenAI, for example, let's say OpenAI in 5 years will do the ads. Like in 5 years, ChatGPT, you just say, I have a new company, do the ads, it will do everything for you. And it will do the best ads you've ever seen, and people will get so hooked. So I'm actually on this slightly concerned. If someone has some ideas how to solve it, please let us know. Because I think so. My solution is I personally don't have Instagram. I deleted it. Sometimes I install it for a minute and to publish some things, and I'll delete it again. But honestly, it's a big problem because the ads that are coming in 5 years will be insanely good and insanely addictive and making you think you should buy products that you never need. So that's a big problem for a smart founder to solve. How we can solve it once AI will make all the ads, because that's a bit the scary part of the future. There's good things with AI, but the ads with AI will be scary good, and that's not good for humanity.
Go. I'll go next.
I think it is very scary sometimes when you think about it. But what has happened in Mark? Hello? Are we okay? Okay. Mark Forrester knows this, but Hello, hello, hello. Anyway, so what's going to happen is we're still people at the end of the day, and there's going to be a huge gaps for in-person marketing and warm marketing and doing things like this, building communities, building a community, and then have a business off the back of your community, or vice versa. One of the things we as people are going to, and especially as we become more technologically advanced, we're going to long more for in-person interactions. And it's going to leave the opportunity for in-person marketing. There's going to be huge gaps, and there's going to be a lot of people avoiding it, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity there as well.
I actually could not agree more. I think the fact that everything is becoming so, robotic, so similar to each other, I think is a great opportunity. And I think that more and more, the more human a brand becomes, the more it will stand out, the stronger the relationship will be with their audience. And so we are seeing kind of like a huge kind of increase in, it's all about the brand, it's all about the brand, super, super important. And now I would even argue that it's about, this new wave is really about community. And I think that's one thing community is what probably brought us, all of us here, and I think that's a testament to it. And another way also to make your brand more human beyond just building a community, I think is also, they call it the founder creator playbook, right? Like showcase who's behind the company, do a lot of the behind the scenes. I think that's why podcasts are becoming so popular. And that was also partly why with Charisma, at least at the very beginning, we don't do it as much as we used to, but at the very beginning, when we launched the co-living space in late 2022, we were able to build a huge wait list, because over the 5 months where we were looking for a co-living space without finding anything for so long, it's because we were like documenting the entire journey. So people were like super hooked, and by the time we actually opened up the co-living space, which had 5 rooms, we had like 88 people sign up on the wait list. I was like, okay, this is super easy. So I think that was really nice. You were nodding also. I don't know if maybe you want to add anything related to branding. Otherwise, we'll jump to the part of scaling and systems. Nick, when is the right time to scale your business? And is there anything that people get wrong about scaling? Maybe they try to rush it, maybe I don't know. What do you think?
I'll go back to my original statement in regard to scaling, is that ability to say no, in a sense, because what I've seen and witnessed in my career are more of my competitors saying yes. And I would sit and say, well, like, all right, go ahead, have at it. And then 2 years, 5 years, they're either out of business or they filed BK or something like this because they grew too fast. That ability to stand back and say that's not a great piece of business for us, for what our business model is, the opportunity's here, but that ability to scale when the time is right for your business growth, the cash flow's there, you got the ability for your team, the ops, and so forth to support whatever that scaling opportunity is. So having the confidence, strength, and experience to say no and scale when the time is right for your business.
Love it. And Chris, so from your own personal experience and also from interviewing hundreds and hundreds of founders, millionaires, billionaires, what are some of the biggest obstacles that people face or that you've faced in scaling a company, and what are some strategies to overcome these obstacles?
Well, a big strategy or a big obstacle would be not having enough money to scale, and also limiting beliefs. So often people will just be stuck in their own mindset, which will stop them from getting to 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, and so on. And this is one thing that I really noticed. My podcast, I started in 2015, and I wanted to interview 100 6-figure founders. That was my big goal, right? If I could interview 100 people that have built six-figure businesses online. That would be amazing. And then I'd figure out how to do it and grow from that. And then, so I did it, and then I interviewed, when I finished, I was like, well, what's next? Let's interview 100 seven-figure founders. So then I did that. And then I was like, okay, what's after that? 108 nine-figure founders. And now we're on 10-figure founders. But the quite often what I'll ask the guest is, okay, what's the difference between your mindset when you're at 5 figures in your business, then 6 figures in your business, then 7 figures and 8 figures, and so on. And one, it's always mindset, what they're thinking about, who they're surrounding themselves with, and the information that that they're putting in their head. 2, it's limiting beliefs on what can be really achieved. So I have a business partner who has another business, a secondary business, and he came in and he was like, we want to grow this business to $5 million. But he wanted to get an investor, and he got another investor to come on board, and that investor said, no, we're going to start at 5 million. That's our starting point. We're going to grow this to 50 million. And that's just all belief, just belief and the understanding that you can build to whatever level you want to build to if you have that mindset and you get out of your own damn way. And I think that's Nick's shaking his head. I'm sure he's been there as well.
Tommy, what key systems do you put in place to support business growth, right? What's the role of automation, outsourcing, delegation? What are your thoughts, to make sure that we're not just, at the end of the day, like, you can have amazing marketing, you start growing, but if you start growing too fast, right, you may also just end up shooting yourself in the foot. So, how can you really create these systems to make sure that the ship remains intact, that it's still sailing forward, and you can capitalize on all this growth?
Yeah, so businesses are really dynamic. They're like living organisms. So they're always going to be changing over time. And there's always going to be processes or phases rather of growth, and then sort of like stagnation, and you'll like plateau, some things will break, you'll fix it, and then you'll grow and do it again. When it comes to putting together like the basic systems and automations in place, one, I've always hired people to do that, so I've become like really good at delegating, which is one of my superpowers. So finding the right people to work with to build that stuff out for you, so you can just focus on what you're good at, which in my case is just bringing dollars in the door, and having someone else kind of like clean up the trash behind you is also really impactful. So delegation is really key. Like I think one thing that people really get caught up on when it comes to just scaling a business in general is like creating standard operating procedures and really documenting what you're doing, and feeling like you have to have this thing like really super crystallized before you can grow on top of it. Which if you do that too early, you're just going to end up throwing all that away anyway and having to redo it, because everything is just consistently changing over time. But what's even more important when you're taking that into consideration is just the people that are doing it, rather than the systems that are being built underneath. Like, you just have to have really smart people that are just figuring shit out, because that's your number one asset. So I would say it's really about the people.
Actually, I was going to ask a question to Nick, but we'll skip that for the next one, and we'll go straight into the topic of team. And I was wondering, Paola, how do you build and maintain a culture in a scaling company? Because when you have just 5 to 10 people, everyone, everything is easy or easier, right? But your company is scaling. How do you even maintain the culture, and how do you leverage the people within your company to keep up with the growth?
I love what you said about the people, and I think in my experience, what worked was not understanding myself as a founder or my brother, but as a founding team. And these people are in the company for 8 years now. So these people are really reliable, and it's an extension of me. They have grown next to us. So it's like they breathe the same air, they speak the same language, they understand the things the same. And first, this helps you a lot have vision, because if not, you have too many weight on the shoulders and you lose vision to scale. And so you have this reliability on people. You can do a step behind and just have more an holistic view of things and let people execute on their areas. And you are sure these people are the one translating the vision, all the time to newcomers. Also, I think it's very important to have a very robust, I don't know if it's the word, but onboarding system. I think having a nice HR team on our case was key to find the right person that can be really representing the point of view of the company and can really translate all that into each newcomer and all the procedure.
And follow-up question, when you started growing, was there any key hire that you made that really kind of, stabilized the business or just made your daily operations go smoother?
Yeah, I think when I started hire people on things I was doing that was not adding value, or the things I was not the best on doing, that would we've tried to identify things that were really dedicating a lot of time on myself, and that was kind of the key, because I could be really adding value to build the vision and having the next achievable vision, as he was saying. So really try to focus on what your really value is, I would say, and try to hire people that are better than you at doing the rest of the things.
And how do you adapt as a leader, right? Like, one thing is building the culture, one thing is building the team, managing it, but how do you adapt your leadership style as your team grows?
So in this case, no, I would definitely say when you're in this position, you want to read all the books you can on personal growth, on becoming that person. And I also want to add one more thing to what you said before. I also like when we identify key team members. What I recommend you, sorry. So what I recommend you is to actually, with people who have been with you a long time and you see that they are really important, they fully brief a company culture now, give them phantom shares. Like, we've done this in many projects, and you have a way more loyal person. They think like a co-founder from now on. Like, for me, I don't know what's happening there, but also for this new project, with my other two co-founders, we're a bit against it, but I'm giving everyone phantom shares where I can, because I love it. So I really believe that it will be so big that a lot of people will get from it.
And just a follow-up question with that, can you please explain to people what are phantom shares, right? And I think a lot of people in this room are also solopreneurs. Do you recommend phantom shares or even equity when you're probably not planning an exit, you're maybe not even planning to raise capital? Is that a strategy you would also recommend?
So the second part, if you're a solo entrepreneur, how would you give phantom shares? I didn't get the second part. The first part I can explain, but what's the second part?
So
if you're a solo entrepreneur,
yeah. If you're a solopreneur, or let's say you're just building more of a smaller team, right? You're maybe not just growing this crazy business and trying to raise a lot of money. Is that something you would also recommend people do?
Okay, now I get it. Yes, so exactly. Let's say you're like a personal brand and it's mostly you, but you could always give, it would not be a phantom share in this case because there's not a company, not shares, but you could say, hey, whatever I'm earning, you get a percentage from it. So like that you are really motivated, that this is growing. We are fully on the same path together. Maybe better when I'm here. So phantom shares, what is it? So basically, if I, who wants to have 5% of AdUniverse? Hands up. Okay, so you go. So I would now give you like 5%. let's say now we already have people who want to invest, so the company is already worth something. If I give it to you now, what happens? You have to pay tax today here in Spain. That sucks, no? So because you get something that is still only a paper, but you have to pay tax on that right away. So, and therefore is a phantom shares. A phantom shares is a contract that you and me have that says that I, Chris, promise the moment we sell the company, however we sell it for, let's say 100 million, I would right away transfer you the same day 5 million. So it's a contract between you and me. It's a personal contract and it's not taxed yet. So that's why, like, for example, like the founder of Glovo is a good friend and he gave many people phantom shares, right? So like it also was good for the team. So like it's a very common thing, comes from Silicon Valley, but it's very, very, in Barcelona Activa, where we were all growing together, that's where everyone used it. So we all love phantom shares. So welcome to the team.
So before we go on to the last category of today's expert panel, before we go into the hacks and tricks, you know, that you can also implement to become a better leader, a better person, I'm wondering, Nick, is there anything we've missed when it comes to scaling? Is there any general advice you would give to people who are potentially struggling in this current phase?
Great question. What I would say here is definition of your business plan. If you've got a projection, obviously it's going to change every day, every month, every year. But it's I love the analogy, an airplane is typically off course more than it's on course, but it always arrives at the destination, typically. But it's the same with business, right? Knowing what the direction, the trajectory, where you're going, and the definition of your goals. Do you have an exit strategy? I mean, are you building it to 1 mil, 100 mil, and are you exiting in a few years, 10 years, or is this a lifelong project for you? So defining that sooner than later could help you. I exited very soon in my organization, but the residuals still come, and I can still play in that space more in a sales role, but I've got the freedom. I'm sitting here chatting with you, and the business one, what mine is in the States, but I still maintain the connectivity, but it worked for myself and the definition of my business goals and objectives personally. So I'd say do that sooner than later.
Thank you. I want to talk now about the personal side of scaling a business. Nick, back to you. Can you share a life hack, something that has really improved your productivity, your efficiency, and that has really then, as a result, impacted your business operations? I think this is especially important nowadays, now that we live in this world of distractions, it's hard to stay focused. We'll touch on this, really the aspect of focus, this life hack that you may recommend, and then we'll go into more routines, decision-making, tools, and then we'll finish off with habits that you must have.
Perfect. I love the question. The one thing that I would state that's been the most beneficial for myself is hiring a life coach. I love the process because she asks me questions every week. I chat with her. I love my Thursday calls, and it's what do I want? And we all want something different. It's like a fingernail, a thumbprint. But because all of our answers are unique and different, and all she does is hold me accountable for what I say I want. The next week when I show up, did I do what I say? That type of thing. Did I complete my goals? Did I go out and party too much? Did I do this? Did I do that? It helps get you to where you want to go faster, quicker, easier, path of least resistance, and it keeps me focused. I mean, I'm only holding myself accountable. It's like a checklist, and I love the process. For the years I've been utilizing the life coach, I've achieved so much more and obtained the personal goals as well as business goals that I wanted, more efficiently. So that's my number one answer on that one.
Thanks, Nick. And Chris, you talked on the topic of burnout, right? Have you incorporated any routines, wellness habits to really make sure that you avoid falling into this, anxious state again, which is super normal? I think happens to most of us. Maybe you could share some of the daily habits that you've implemented since that experience to make sure that you overcome, you avoid these things from happening again?
Yeah. So quick thing to you, no? Like when you know you have energy to stay until 4 a.m. in the office, don't do it, no? So it was during 2 years that I was like, yeah, I can do it. I was like 25, I can work until 4 a.m. And boom, like I had crazy burnout, couldn't do anything anymore. What helped me directly afterwards, and this I can recommend to everyone, is a Vipassana meditation, which is like, you know how I love to talk. So it's like 10 days without talking. So 10 days, complete silence. You give your phone away. We have it here in Barcelona. Like it's called Dhamma Nero Vipassana, and it's for free. You can donate afterwards, but it's for free. So this I will do also again this year. I love it. So like can highly recommend doing Vipassana to everyone. And now to the daily routines which I've developed to that this doesn't happen again. And anyone who wants, like I'm a bit of a German nerd, so I make this bullet list, and everyone who wants can take a picture from my phone later if you want. But I came to this, which works best for me, by A/B testing it. So the same way how I test for an ad, I test like 3,000 different variations. I also A/B test my routine in the morning, what works best. And I also have a happiness podcast, so I gotta test and have a lot of interviewed a lot of people just like you, but always on the topic of happiness, and keep learning from people. So here's my list, what works best for my morning. Okay, so first of all, for happiness and for living well, in my case, I wanted to build a life where I don't need an alarm clock. So every morning I wake up when I wake up, like there's never an alarm, right? So I wake up and my body decides to wake up. Then the first thing I do is right away 5 minutes of reading, okay? And this again, you can test it for you. For me, it's 5 minutes of reading, currently the Bhagavad Gita, but whatever book flows for you. Then right away, 5 minutes into the sunlight, so I go to my terrace and have a glass of water. So right away, because if I wake up early, like late, can be at 9 o'clock or so, but right away the sunlight hits my eyes, so I don't get tired too late again the next day, same day. So right away, 5 minutes of sunlight. Then I do a 5-minute journal. So I write down things I'm grateful for. Then I do a 5-minute meditation. Now sometimes I do like longer, but minimum, like meditation is a certain thing that I think you have to trick yourself into. Like you say you do 5 minutes and then you enjoy, and sometimes you do longer, but you do 5 minutes, and the app I use is called Oak, which is for free. Right after a 5-minute meditation, I look at my vision board, and so I give a lot of public speeches. So I have for me it's a keynote, and I constantly add new pictures there or change some pictures. So I would every morning look at my vision board and change some things for 5 minutes, and then afterwards, maybe if I feel like, I do some affirmations. But after this, it's just 5 minutes of sports, which I've measured, and for me it's exactly the time to do 42 push-ups. Because also 42 is the answer to all questions in the universe. So that's why for me it ends. So it's eight different steps. I have it. You can take a picture if you want. But so for me, these 8 steps of 5 minutes each is what works best, because when you actually do it, and then you can get pretty stress-free, happy life, I would say. Yeah.
Love it. I would also add stillness. Just how often do we just work and then we think we're taking a break, but during that break we're just pulling out our phones and just scrolling. Then again, you're not really resting your brain. And something as simple as just 5 minutes of just staring out the window, looking at the ceiling, whatever, incorporating those things, really, really nice. I also experienced burnout last year, and since then I've prioritized a lot more sports, nature, and those have been really, really beneficial to me as well. More so around decision making. Tommy, do you have any go-to methods or frameworks to make sure that you're making the right decisions? Because at the end of the day, making the wrong decisions could lead to you wasting a lot of very valuable time, especially when you have a lot of spinning plates. So is there anything you do to improve your decision-making abilities?
I think, at a certain point, you have a life data to reflect on to see what type of decisions you've made and like what sort of outcomes you've gotten. So you can start to kind of make a list of things to avoid. So there's certainly, you know, things that I try to avoid or that I've learned to avoid like later in life that help me make better decisions. As well, you know, like I'm a really big fan of just focusing on the most important thing to get done. Really, for me, like I really only get like one or two big things done every day. Usually one, and sometimes only like half of that one thing if it's a little bit of a bigger item. So I think if you're really clear on those priority items, then all the other decisions sort of take care of themselves. So it's like focus on your one big goal for the day, and then all the other decisions sort of just fall into place.
I remember you told me about the book Essentialism. I don't know if this relates to it or there's anything you'd love to add regarding this specifically. Yes, no? I thought that was really interesting.
Regarding the book in particular and decision making?
Open-ended question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's the book, The Essentialism. I interviewed the author of it. It's probably one of the best books when it comes to analyzing your time and what you're spending your time on. And we all know this, like, and you talked about A/B test. I've A/B test a lot, and I'm always less stressful and happier when I'm focusing on less things, right? And everybody just nodded your head up here, so I'd imagine you guys have the same experience. But that's easier said than done, and it's a continual practice. Like, I've been an entrepreneur over a decade. I think everybody's put at least 10 years up here, close to it. And it's always ongoing. So it's not like you can get better at it. It doesn't mean it gets necessarily easier, because there's some other problem that will come up in your life or challenge, or something happens with your family, or, you know, global pandemic or something, and more stress comes in our life. It's just a continual practice of going back and asking ourselves, what's the priority? What's the most important thing to focus on for the day? Tommy does one or two. I do 3 things a day that I have to knock out that are the most important things. And then, like Tommy said, all the other little things kind of fall into place.
Alrighty, and we're here on to our second to last question of today. Then we're going to go into Q&A. But Paola, I'm curious, do you have any strategies or actual tools that you use to increase your productivity, especially when you have like such a big team that you have to manage, more at the tool level or even strategy? Is there anything that you do to make sure that you're always on, you know, that things are not falling through the cracks?
More into the practical, I'm thinking about something I do, which is I read the email only once a week. So there's a day only dedicated to email.
What the fuck?
You can learn so much from that.
Yeah, because, I think email bothers a lot. And sometimes you just need time for yourself to execute, or to, even if it's on the creative side, or to strategize, or to talk deeply about something with someone. And you all said it somehow, like qualitative time to work. And I think it's a bad idea to be just, oh, hey, like you need to be only in one place. I think it's everything and it's all about that give you happiness and focus on one thing. And it's not, I'm always doing it. I'm trying to do it from a year ago, and it's changed a lot for me.
Very brave. And just as the last question, for yourself, I know that one of the things that we bonded over when we met each other was actually productivity. We're both nerds when it comes to that. You've also interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people who probably employ some sort of habits. But if you could only pick one final habit that every entrepreneur should have in their life to be more successful, to be happier, what would that be?
the first thing that comes to mind is realizing that entrepreneurship and life is a long-term game. Like we just mentioned, probably everybody up here on the panels put at least 10 years into a business and some longer. I interviewed a guy, his name's Jeffrey Kent. He's the founder of a company. It's one of the largest luxury travel companies out there. It's worth about $2 billion now. And one of the things I asked him, I was like, well, what if somebody wants to build $1 billion company, what do you recommend? And he goes, man, I didn't even make $1 million until after year 10. He goes, I was scraping for money for the first decade, barely getting by. The business was going by with duct tape and dreams, you know. I was not taking a salary. He goes, but from year 10 to 20, it was pretty good. And I mean, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are in the audience, you know, and think about it like this, like you've got to put in, just like your career, you're going to have basically 40 years of a working career. You got to think of entrepreneurship as a career, a 40-year game. You know, a lot of us like year 2 and 3, if we haven't made our $1 million or even a couple $100,000, we're pissed and we're throwing the business to the, you know, to the wall and trying to start something else or get into the next thing, the AI or the crypto or the NFT thing or the next shiny object, right? And business is a long-term game. Entrepreneurship is a long-term game. I was selling on Amazon in 2009. I did it for 6 months and I was like, this crap doesn't work. I didn't make any money. So you can imagine, like, if I stuck with Amazon from 2009 to 2019 or 2020, 24, you know. I had a mentor when I was 2011, and he said to me, Chris, you need to start making a YouTube channel and collecting AdSense off the YouTube channel. You do cool things, travel around the world, document all this stuff. And I was like, I'm too busy building this niche website thing, you know. And you can imagine if in 2011 I started my YouTube channel and grew it until today, it would have been a much different place for both those opportunities. So think about that. Like whatever you're working on, this is a productivity hack, even though it doesn't sound like a productivity hack. Think about it in the long term. You know, like, can I do this thing for the next decade? And if you can't, you may be in the wrong business. You may have the wrong business. And if you can answer that truthfully and say, yes, I can do this 10 years from now, I'll be happy doing this, then you're probably in the right business. And that'll make you more productive because you're passionate about it. You have more joy and excitement around it. And you'll naturally have better brain functioning, better emotions around it, better friendships. It'll just overflow to all areas of your life. So, yeah.
All right. Time's up. Guys, please. So good. Wow, I'm so honored to be surrounded by these incredible people here today. Beyond just, being successful entrepreneurs, these are amazing human beings who have come here to share all the things that they've learned over the years, and that is truly priceless. So thank you again for being here today, for sharing so much. And I also just want to give a big thank you to Peel Creative. They are in charge of making sure this gets fully documented to make sure that you can revisit these things. They have a content creation studio close to Urquinaona, can help you with anything related to marketing, anything related to content creation, filming things. These are your people. And this was also, and I missed this at the very beginning, partly sponsored by M3 Entrepreneurs, Chris's incredible organization for top-tier entrepreneurs. I actually reached out to him. I was really inspired 2 years ago, and I was like, okay, this is something I really want to do. So he's also been instrumental in bringing in some amazing people here, helping out and making sure everything goes really, really smoothly. So thank you so much.